Everybody, welcome back to the Film Tangents podcast.
Welcome back. This is Sway. Sway.
In the
Sway.
morning. In the morning.
In the morning.
Iconic. That's iconic. Like I love that's my favorite like intro to like a radio show ever. That's the best.
That's
one.
the best.
Yeah.
Especially
Especially because to me, or like especially because for me or people in our generation, people who experience what we've experienced, remember that happening followed by him introducing Kanye West in the most iconic interview of all time.
Dude, what Sway freestyle stands out in your mind? Like, which one do you think of right when I say Sway freestyle?
Exactly that one. You ain't got the answer, Sway. Literally, like 30 minutes after he said it.
It's like not rhyming any of the
but to me, like any Sway related content, that's the best of it. Whether it's an interview, whether it's a freestyle, that's the best one. Obviously, when you say that, I also think about like the Gambino one that he did, because he did like a freestyle over the Pound Cake, the Drake song with Jay-Z. But not many come to mind, honestly. I'm not like huge into searching for and listening to freestyles, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I like them now and then. I think the best Sway freestyle, the one I always go back to the most, probably ASAP Ferg's. I think I showed you that one.
I think you did.
That one's great. He raps over, I don't know what the second beat was, but the first one that he raps over is Mary Jane by Scarface, that beat. Mm-hmm. That's a great beat.
That's a guy that I feel really bad that like that's one of those guys that I feel like he could have he had more in him. I feel like he just completely fell off.
He really did, man. I still listen to Trap Lord. I mean, it's a solid album, man. What's the other one? The one that came out when we were in college that we were bumping. People at school were bumping it constantly.
Plain Jane?
Yeah, the one with Plain Jane on it. He was like a hit maker for a little while there.
He was like from
a couple hits off that album.
From when he got going, like 2013, 2014 with like those albums. Literally all the way into 2016, 2017, he was the man, and then he fell off. Like he did not do anything past that. Like that because it's a mixtape, and I remember that there was like a big controversy when that mixtape came out because it was like quote unquote a mixtape, because it actually was an album, and there was this big controversy with it. I mean, if anybody remembers this, I remember this. I was aware.
Yeah, I remember this.
That it was like producers were angry with him, and maybe this is like part of why he fell off. Maybe like producers like just were angry at him and blacklisted him. I don't know, but people were angry at him because they were saying that he misrepresented the album because it was actually like an album. It was an album quality project, and he put it out as a mixtape because I think there's like some kind of loophole when you do something as a mixtape, you can pay people less, and they don't get. They're not entitled to as many, or if at all, like royalties from the song, something like that. He basically like hoodwinked everybody. But
yeah, and whoever produced, I can't remember who produced Plain Jane, but that guy would have gotten. Or gal would have gotten a lot of royalties off of that.
Yeah, and at the time that was big. Like at the time that was like big news. But now, like I don't know if that was really like why he kind of ended up falling off the way he did, or if it was just like, or if it was just like the hype for the ASAP thing was just completely gone by that point in time.
Completely, yeah. ASAP, yeah. That whole ASAP mob was on top for a little while, for a few years, but. I don't even know about on top. They were like pretty big.
They're pretty big. It was them and like Odd Future for a big time.
Yeah. I mean, dude, voice is already cracking. Freaking, Plain Jane was playing in all the clubs, dude. I remember, like second, third year of college, man. All the bars, clubs, man. That song was playing, but this is actually going to be a hip hop podcast for a little while because
I'm down for it.
Some sad news I saw this morning. The guy who played Lotto in 8 Mile died.
Fuck Lotto, really?
Yeah, man.
Wow. I guess it's fascinating that you say that, because I guess in a way we've kind of been building ourselves up. I don't know. Like it feels like sometimes the world gives you, and I've kind of talked to you about this because I believe that, and it's like sometimes the world gives you like foreshadowing in your own little bubble, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, if you listen to like 3 podcasts down from this one, you know, we were like that was the intro to the podcast. And I think like
yeah,
then, and I think the next week after that we're still on that, you know.
yeah.
So I mean, R.I.P. man. What else can I say?
Yeah. To give him his due for a second here, Nashawn Breedlove is his name. Famous for battle rapping Eminem in the movie 8 Mile, is dead. This is off of TMZ. A family member tells TMZ Nashawn died in his sleep Sunday at his home in New Jersey. We're told his loved ones do not yet know the cause of his death. Nashawn played Lotto in the 2002 movie, which is loosely based on Eminem's life, and he's known for a scene where his character takes on M's B Rabbit in a rap battle. Yeah. I feel bad. I gotta murder that
dude. You know what the fun? You know what the thing is too, man? That's my favorite one.
Yeah,
that's my favorite one. Because he's great. He's got so much like he's got so much on stage presence. He's so physical. Like, when he's rapping, he's always moving his shoulders and like coming at him.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, man. Rest in
killed
peace.
that.
Rest in peace.
He killed that role.
He really did. He killed it.
Man, what a guy, dude. That role, brief as it was. I mean, man. Oh well, if you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. And this just like the way that he delivered that, like it's iconic, man. It's iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. Rest in peace. But
he's immortalized in that film, and obviously people will keep enjoying that for a long time. And honestly, we'll probably at some point in time do a commentary on that movie. So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, that'll be a fun commentary. Mm-hmm. I wonder what else he was in.
We'll be more rapping than commenting some of those scenes.
Yeah. It looks like he was only in a couple movies. The Wash. I've never heard of that. Oh no, he did a soundtrack for the movie The Wash. I've never heard of that movie, but seems like he was actually a rapper. I don't know. I'm curious to.
He must have been. I mean, the way that he delivered that, he must have been.
Oh yeah. Nashawn Breedlove. How do I find this guy's music? I want to, honor this guy's memory, man, in any way I can, but I can't find much about him right now besides what's in the news. So if I can find anything about this guy just to, honor his memory, man, I will, and, try to mention it on the podcast or at least put it on the community page or something because, he deserves, some recognition. I mean, that really stinks, man. 40, what did it say? In his 40s. I mean, man, that sucks. That's rough. But anyway, rest in peace. And then moving on, dude, in other news, I don't know if you heard about this, but Chief Keef is in the news right now.
For what?
For making fun of a disabled person online, a TikTok account where he raps. And I guess he must be pretty viral because it came across Chief Keef's desktop or phone, and Chief Keef commented on it. Let me see. Here it is.
I mean, these rappers are perpetually online. Like I feel like all these guys are always online.
Yeah. So Chief Keef left a comment on one of the videos saying, "Get a job, Lil Blank."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Really?
And listen, here's the thing. You know me, man. Anyone who knows me, I'm a huge Chief Keef fan.
That's indefensible, right?
Oh yeah,
that's what you're building up to.
I'm building up to it. Yeah, I'm a huge Chief Keef fan. People are always surprised to hear that too, because they're like, Chief Keef, that guy from years ago who was a huge hit maker or whatever. Yeah. It's weird because Chief Keef, he's a rapper who I feel like you can't really find a rapper with the same career, even a similar career trajectory as he had, where between mainstream and underground. And let me explain. If you look at a guy like Denzel Curry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he had a minute in the spotlight when he was on the freshman XXL freshman class of 2016, I believe. But he's an underground artist. You know what I mean? People like him, people like JPEG Mafia, like Death Grips. These are underground artists, right?
Right. Denzel to a lesser extent these days, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he's somebody who has creeped into the mainstream, but what I'm trying to get at is like you have, and then on the flip side, you have artists like, you know, Designer, Fetty Wap, Soulja Boy, you know, or even artists who have had in massive mainstream success, or artists who have continued in the mainstream, Kanye West, Drake, you know, Kid Cudi, like, and countless others. But you've never had, I can't think of another artist who, like Chief Keef, who burst onto the scene, like bigger than Fetty Wap at his prime, bigger than Soulja Boy at his prime, or almost, you know, probably around the same sort of hype, you know, as big as Lil Pump in his prime. You know what I mean? Like, he had his moment he was on national news for like some of his controversies and shit.
Right.
He's a household name. You know, I mean, I go to my, you know, middle-aged uncle and I say, do you know who Chief Keef is? Yeah, I've heard of Chief Keef. I know who that is. Right. Like, people know who that is.
Right.
But then go back underground and maintain a steady underground following after being such a huge mainstream name, I can't really think of anybody else who has done that, you know, because there's plenty of artists who have fallen off who don't maintain a fan base underground.
I think the only artist that comes to mind in a relative way, but obviously not this is not an artist obviously that had like that level of like notoriety, like, and fame. But I guess somebody that comes to mind in that lane, even if they weren't as famous as Earl.
Yeah. I could see that, where Earl was part of Odd Future, which was a huge thing at one point. Yeah, exactly. I would say that's a good comparison.
But that's the only one that I can think about right now. The only one.
Yeah. That's probably the closest thing you could really think of. But what I'm trying to say with all this is, like, people don't realize that Chief Keef has become an Earl sweatshirt, basically. You know what I mean? He is an Earl sweatshirt. He is a Denzel Curry.
Right.
You know, he is a Danny Brown. But it's just like people outside of who aren't hip hop heads don't really know that because he was either they don't know underground artists at all, or they just don't realize that Chief Keef, quote unquote, fell off, but he didn't fall off in terms of a fan base. That guy's going to make money forever.
Right.
Because there are people like me who think his music is wild and weird and totally off the wall. And for people listening who don't even know what I'm talking about, who think Chief Keef just stopped having a career in 2015.
No, he did not. Yeah.
This guy, when he came out with like a pop rap album and proceeded to get dropped by Interscope because he wouldn't stop making, besides his troubles with the law, he wouldn't stop making weird, psychedelic, alternative rap music, which he still makes to this day.
Right.
And now he's considered punk rap, which is, you know, Death Grips, Denzel Curry, JPEG Mafia.
Well, I guess when you're saying that, I guess Lil Yachty's kind of on the way to doing something like that, isn't he?
Yeah, I would say so.
He's building up to that.
And Lil Yachty was a huge Chief Keef fan. That was like his, you know, he is like a direct kind of descendant musically of Chief Keef. But anyway, that's just kind of introducing you to my people out there, to my fandom and what's kind of going on with Chief Keef as an artist. Like, he has a fan base, man. And he makes, if you're someone out there who listens to hip hop, who likes punk rap, if you like JPEG Mafia, Danny Brown, you know, and you also like trap music, give Chief Keef a listen, because he's like the Danny Brown of drill, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe him. And all of this being said, that was a piece of shit thing to do.
Yeah, no, that sounds horrible.
It's terrible, because it's like, dude, and here's the thing, like Chief Keef, again, a lot of people don't know this, but he has PTSD. He has admitted on multiple occasions in his music and in interviews to being bipolar. So he's probably having a manic episode at the moment.
So he's when he did this. I guess he then is like him and Kanye are struggling with similar things.
Exactly. Chief Keef is he's very similar to Kanye in the sense that, you know, his projects get leaked because they take forever to come out, and then he never releases them. He's very similar, because he does the same shit that Kanye does, where he wakes up one morning and says, fuck it, the album's shit, I'm re-recording the entire thing.
As it goes.
And I'm pushing it out a year, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm pushing it out another 6 months for the third time, you know? But it's not an excuse, but I'm speculating here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I looked at that and I'm like, if I could sit down with Chief Keef after I ask him many other questions about his music, his influences, like what was going through your mind when you were making Bang 2 and Almighty So, you know, like all these weird projects that you made, Back from the Dead 2, so on. The last thing I would ask him is, what the fuck were you thinking, man? Like, this is a kid. Forget if he's disabled. That makes it even worse. But forget that even. Let's say he wasn't disabled. This is a kid who probably looks up to you. If he's a rapper, if you're an aspiring rapper, you probably listen to Chief Keef. If you're like a hip hop head, you probably listen to Chief Keef, or you know his influence. Right. You know that he's like the big dog, one of the big dogs of rap. And to shit on him in a comment, I mean, that's got to be so demoralizing. Like, that'd be like, you know, as a writer, for me, that'd be like Stephen King saying that to me, like reviewing one of my books and being like, get a job, little boy, you know. Like, that would crush me, man. And yeah, inexcusable. I'm sure Chief Keef really doesn't care. Who knows if he's even seen the headlines? I mean, fuck it. This is like, it's like pound cake. It's here today and gone tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
it's here today and go tomorrow.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like shit. But hey, he's a punk rapper, dude. He's a punk.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, honestly,
punk rockers and punk rappers, they live that life.
It is one of those things where it's like, it is indefensible in a way, just because of how random it is. It's kind of silly and funny, but not funny in the expenses of, like, you know, the person that he did that to, but funny in the sense of, like, of it being just kind of like not surreal is not the right word, but it's just like so silly. You know, it's like, what are you doing? You know, like, why are you on your phone and like hating on people? Because that's I think that's the maybe the number one thing to take from that it's like, you know, because not only are these things like not constructive in and of themselves, but also just the fact of it all just being like, oh, why are you hating on this person? You know, you know, even like if you're talking about like somebody who's like special needs, you know, it's like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing? I don't know.
I know.
But at the end of the day, maybe he's helping them out because, you know, I didn't know who this person was. And now because he did that, now this like giving this person publicity. So maybe this is like a positive. Maybe you could spin this into a positive. The way for the way for Keef to spin this into a positive, for Mr. Chief Keef.
Yeah. And let's do that right now. The guy's name is Mofrost.
Mofrost?
Mofrost. And it looks like his username is mofrost.rawest. So, hey, check him out on TikTok. Give him the support that Chief Keef did.
So it's like Mofrost, Mofrost, like that?
Yep, exactly.
I'm gonna put it in as part of this section of the podcast. But the right thing for Chief Keef to do now would be to do a feature with him.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, do a feature or like get on his TikTok or like do a collab. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Spin this into a possum.
That's the thing, man. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Chief Keef's music yesterday. Like he's in my top 5 most listened to artists. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to his music.
Where did you see that? Because you sent me that. You sent me that you had like a weekly thing, and that it showed you that Hey Kid was like one of your like most listened to things. Like, where do you see that?
Oh yeah, by Death Grips. You go to Apple Music, and I think it's in the Listen Now section.
This is for those listening. This is the part of this podcast that becomes flash forwards of us being like really old men. We're like, well, how do you do that?
Well, first you unlock the phone.
Unlock the phone and go to
the Facebook. Yeah. No, but you just go to Apple Music and you go to Listen Now and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and it'll have replay 2023 your year so far.
Yeah, I'm at it right now. Why at the bottom? I feel like Apple Music doesn't like I feel like they don't understand like the viral like element of these things. Like this people being able to share like whatever like they've been listening to is like the most like the biggest thing on like Spotify. It's like one of the things people keep using it because there's like that element of like. There's like that social media element. It's like, guys, like get on with it.
It's easy to find on Spotify, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't use Spotify, but people are sharing that like at January of every year, like every New Year's Eve.
Exactly. So this is my countdown or whatever. Because I just like put that in front of your face. Like I have like Spotify for free, and I just have it to listen to like the podcast in there. And they like whenever it's time, they just throw that right at your face. It's like in the front screen. It's like here it is,
Yeah, you know what the thing too that I hate about having to say on a podcast that like Chief Keef's one of my most listened to artists is that people who maybe didn't just hear my rant just now about what Chief Keef's been up to, they think I'm like some idiot who's just sitting around bumping Love Sosa and Finito all day. It's like, no, I don't listen to those songs at all. I don't even, that first album of his that Love Sosa's on, I don't listen to that album at all. That is my least listened to Chief Keef album is his most popular one. Like that one didn't make me a fan. What made me a fan was realizing, oh shit, this guy's like a Danny Brown weirdo who makes like crazy, weird psychedelic music that's fun to listen to. But
let me interrupt you. I'm looking at this thing. Take a guess. Take a guess, please, as to my most listened to artists. And if I were to give you like a clue as to like who it would be, it's somebody whom I dedicated like 4 podcast episodes to.
4 podcast episodes?
Like 3 or 4. I think it was 3 podcast episodes.
Oh shit! Oh, Future.
Yes.
Oh my god,
it's my number
sucks,
1,
dude. Holy shit! Because you went through his whole discography.
I went through his whole discography.
I'm really pleased with my top 5 because it has 4 out of 5 of my top 5 rappers. Yeah. The only one that's missing is MF Doom. And when I saw that, I got really pissed because who replaced him was Travis Scott.
Dude, and my number 1 album, Hendrix.
Oh my god.
What have I done?
That's crazy. So I started going through MF Doom's discography because I was like, I need to get MF Doom on this list of my top 5 most listened to. Then I'll have all 5 of my favorite rappers on my top listened to artists list, and that'll be great. But what I was trying to say too was like I was listening again yesterday. I was listening to Chief Keef's crazy, wild, super, in my opinion, super talented and genius, like on a sonic level, genius music. Mm-hmm. At a not at a lyrical level. He just raps about guns, drugs, and all that shit. You know what I mean? He raps about gangster rap shit. He's very clever with his wordplay. I mean, it's like he's especially these days, his lyrics, he's doing a lot of like Lil Wayne type wordplay. That's great. But at a genius level is the sonic, the production, the what he does with his vocals, whether it's the auto tune or the weird vocal effects, just all of it put together is what's brilliant. And when I was listening to it, I'm like, dude, Chief Keef, you're a legend. You're an incredible artist. You don't need to be shitting on people.
Right.
You have nothing to prove, nobody to like flex on or look better than. Like, you're a brilliant guy. You should be lifting people up. It doesn't mean you have to like everything. I didn't even listen to the guy who he made fun of. I didn't even watch the video that he commented on. Yeah. Like, I don't really care. It's just like, you don't need to be doing that shit, man. But anyway, he doesn't care.
No. No. But
his album's supposed to come out in October in like 2 weeks, but I will not be surprised if it gets delayed a fifth time or however many times it's been. But the 2 singles that he released, I can tell you, man, he released 2 singles off of his upcoming album. Tony Montana Flow and Rack Stuffed in the Couch. And he's doing, I mentioned Danny Brown a couple times there. He's doing like some weird Danny Brown shit with his delivery. And I'm liking it.
Really?
I'm liking it. Very like pronounced, kind of goofy, like that sort of Danny Brown voice, but he's like making it his own, and I'm here for it, man. I'm excited. So shitting on Chief Keef came to turned into praising him.
Yeah, exactly. It goes. But I'm excited for it because that when I listened to him, whenever I was like on the seas of the artists, I think I listened to like only 2 albums. So I told you that I'm gonna like double back to him. But definitely like For Them was like, it's a great album. Like, that's a great hip hop album. For anybody trying like wanting to listen to like, I guess like his best like late work as of these days, that's pretty good.
Yeah. For you, I would recommend whenever you circle back to him, there's a guy on YouTube named David Rowe, ROWE, and he has a video called Chief Keef Albums and Mixtapes Ranked. I would say that's a good place. You can always defer to me as well, but
tell me the ranking.
Exactly, but if you just want to grab like a quick video, I would say that is a really good video that he really delves into each project, talks about it, and his ranking, I would say, is pretty sound. It's pretty similar to mine. There's some variation where I'm like, I would have put that album like way higher, but for the most part, I would recommend that video as like a solid guide to whenever you go back to, whenever you circle back to Almighty Sosa.
Okay. Chief Keef Ranked.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because I think I need something that I've realized post listening to Future is that I went too hard in pain. Now, like even looking at like the fact that it's like my top artist for the year still, and it's like we're going into October, and top artist for like top album, one of his albums. So it's like it was like one of his albums that has like 21 songs. It's like, of course I listened to that for a long time. So what I need to do in the future is just to listen to like 3 or 4 albums. Maybe not even that, maybe like 2 or 3. It's like, that's too much. I listened to like 15 albums like that guy. That's too much, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know how you did it. Because not Chief Keef, Future, he's like the opposite of Chief Keef in a way, where he's just very much like, for a while, I mean, Future is an influential artist. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that's why I gave him like such a big like chance.
Yeah. But I think his influence begins and ends between 2012 and 2015. I think
I'll push it to 2016.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what with that Evil project.
Yeah, and just kind of like the trickling of the Drake collaboration in 2015, late 2015.
Yeah, that's true. I guess what I'm saying is like after 2016 and beyond, he just became a very like
complacent,
pro forma. Yeah, like a very just pro forma trap artist where it's like, okay, this guy is, he's the definition of mainstream rap in a way.
Right.
And, someone like Chief Keef is like, I mean, if you listen to, I was reading a Reddit thread the other day about Chief Keef's album, Back from the Dead 2. This is the album with Finito on it. True outsider rap.
Yeah, that's the one I've listened to.
Yeah. Back from the Dead 2?
Yeah.
Did you listen to that one?
No. I listened to the first one, and then
you listened to Finally Rich.
Yeah, I listened to Finally Rich, and then I went to the last one. I just listened to the first and last.
Yeah, Back from the Dead 2 has Finito, and it has that song The Moral that you and I like.
Yeah, I love that song.
But The Moral is like a great blueprint for what that album is, because that is true outsider rap. I mean, that album, someone on Reddit was saying that album feels cursed, and I would agree. I mean, it sounds like that album almost, to me, it's like Chief Keef died, went to hell, and just like still rapped, and then came back to life. You know what I mean? Thus, Back from the Dead. Like that's what it sounded like. He had a near-death experience, and time in hell was like longer, so he had enough time to record an album, and he recorded his album in a prison cell in hell, in like the 9th circle. That's what that album sounds like. Yeah, that's my description of Back from the Dead 2. Someone on Pitchfork described it as, which Pitchfork gave it like good reviews.
Really?
And at the time when it came out, the person on Pitchfork described it as basically the album is like a hit rap album turned inside out to reveal its dirty, rotten core. And I was like, that is the best description ever of that album. But I don't remember where I was going with that. But anyway, I was contrasting him to Future.
Yeah, but something that I want to transition to, because it's a very smooth segue, is did you disconnect? Oh, I see.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That was a very brief.
For like a second.
Yeah, that was a very brief technical issue. That's gonna stay in the podcast. But something that I thought was a good segue is Kid Cudi and the Insano album.
Oh yeah, got delayed, right?
He pushed it back to January of 2024.
Yep.
What is that about?
I don't know, man. I was looking forward to that, obviously.
You know what the funny thing is with it, though? He released a song. Like, when Cudi pushed it back, and his response to being asked, like, why he pushed it back, he said, I'm a perfectionist. But he released a song in... It's like early September, I think. Late August, early September, he released a song. And the song was just like this song. It was like this like weird electronic like pop song. Did you know about this?
I heard one single off of Insano. I don't know did he release a second one?
No, because what I'm talking about, he never really released it. He put out like the song in like a TikTok. It was like in a TikTok that it was like snippet that he did himself. And he like was like doing like little dances, and the song was just him kind of shouting like, I wanna move or something like that. But it was horrible. It was horrible.
Really? And I didn't hear that one.
And people reacted in nature. People reacted by being like, this is horrible. And Cudi quickly deleted the TikTok. But
I think I heard about that.
As it goes, it was just doing the rounds online. Like, it was on Reddit and it was on YouTube. People were sharing it anyway. And after that, Cudi pushed back the album. So that's good. I have a theory that the album might have been some misguided, like Speeding Bullet to Heaven, like, I'm gonna do like a electronic like pops album. Yeah. And he was like, this is a song that I'm the most proud of. Let me put it out and like, let me see what people think. And people's reactions were, this is trash. And his reaction was, well, that's most of the album, so let's push it back.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad in that case, because now he has like 3 months, 3.5 months to record a new one.
Yeah.
We need something from Cudi like Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying again. Not something that sounds exactly like that, but something that has that much artistic passion.
Exactly, because it's like the thing.
Kid See Ghost.
Exactly, because the thing with him is that he did Passion, Pain, and then he did Kid See Ghost. So in a way, it felt like we were being spoiled. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
And then he did Man on the Moon 3, which is good. Like that's a good album, but it's like it doesn't have that. It has sacrifices because obviously he was kind of going for mainstream appeal. If it hadn't been because his album like released when like Taylor Swift released like her album, then he would have been like number one. He's never had a number one album in his career. He's always been number two, and he was number two again. So I don't know. Maybe for him. Because then after he released that, then he released like Intergalactic, which felt so half-baked. Like that album felt passionless. Because that album felt like what he was passionate about was the movie and not the album. And it felt like he kind of robbed his fans, like his music fans. Because it really just felt like, he really wanted to be making this movie, and he got all his friends into making this movie. And then also he made the soundtrack for the movie and he released it as an album. So it just felt half-baked. It felt like it was not like a project, And I think you're right. I think we're missing one. We're missing like a really good Kid Cudi project. Like wow, this one's like he really put himself into it. And honestly, from what it seems like his last album was shaping out to be, it was not gonna be that.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like we were gonna be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I need something out of Cudi. Like, I was re-listening to some of Lil Yachty's most recent album today, and I hadn't listened to songs from that album in a while, for like a few months now, and I was going back and listening to, some of my favorite songs off that album: Black Seminole, Pretty, Say Something. We Saw the Sun, probably my favorite one off that album. And we need something like that out of Kid Cudi. When I was listening to that, I was like, I need something like this out of Cudi. Because I really think that was a great, say what you want about Lil Yachty as an artist. And that's the trouble, especially when you have Lil in your name, is like people are just going to box you in to that rap sort of, they're going to box you in. Like, oh, it's Lil Yachty. Like, oh, you think he had a great album, you must be an idiot. And it's like, well, he made a great album. What can I say?
Right.
And we need something like that out of Cudi. He has it in him.
Right.
I mean, again, Passion, Pain, and Demon Slaying and Kids See Ghosts. I mean, great albums, melodic hip-hop music.
He's done it before,
Yeah.
Like being able to achieve like really like solid like alternative like hip hop.
Yeah. And that's the genre for me, man. That's what I listen to the most is alternative hip hop. I mean, my top 5 rappers: MF Doom, Chief Keef, Kid Cudi, Freddie Gibbs, and The Game. And 3 out of those 5 that I just named, maybe 4. Freddie Gibbs is alternative hip hop, definitely, on many of his albums. That's what I'm looking for, man. Is an elevation of that subgenre. That's what I search for, man.
Because ultimately, and I think we've said this before, but I mean, it never feels old saying it, but I think hip hop in and of itself, it's like plateaued,
Yeah.
Like the mainstream hip hop is just plateaued. Like where there's no like, because I feel like the last bearer of hope, the guy who was like, what's the name? What's the name of that? Not Midas. That like guy that was like that. It's like carrying the planet on his back. What's the name of that guy?
Carrying a planet on his back.
Yeah, like it's like one of those gods or like a. I'm gonna look it up. But it felt like Travis Scott was like that guy, where it's like, oh, all of the hopes. All of the hopes of hip hop are on this guy.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, and Travis, I mean, his new project is pretty good. I would say.
Atlas.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
It
What?
says Atlas.
That's a Greek god,
Yeah,
right?
no, he's a Greek titan condemned to hold up the heavens or the sky for the eternity after the Titanomachy or something. Um, but that's what I was thinking about. But
Yeah,
it
that's
was
the
like
war with the Titans, I think.
yeah. But he was punished because they lost and he was punished, and then he was punished to do that. But it's one of those things where Travis was like that guy. It's like all of hip hop was just on him, and it's like, oh, he's gonna push the mainstream forward, and it's like, oh, he just released Jesus too, you know. So
Yeah.
it feels like when that came out and when it literally was just Jesus again, that's when I was like, oh, this is plateaued, you know. Because Jesus was like alternative hip hop, you know, it was industrial hip hop. It was Kanye trying to like get in the same lane, you know. It was him trying to get ahead of the curve of mainstream by getting on the same lane as like Death Grips, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I guess now, you know, it's like it was just such a strange thing to be like, oh, I guess now mainstream is that Jesus, but Jesus is an album that's 10 years old. You know, like we're past that. You know,
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking yesterday while I was working out. I can remember the exact moment I was thinking about it. I was like, who's my Mount Rushmore of hip hop?
Mm.
And for everybody, that means a different thing. For me, what it means is like it's like a mixture of my favorite artists and their importance to hip hop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like who do I like who's also really important to hip hop?
Who are those?
The Mount Rushmore that I came up with. These are artists that I like and or are just super, super important to the culture or to the music. I came up with Chief Keef. Again, you can't deny his monumental influence onto the rap game, and I think he will continue to influence it because each of his albums I listen to, I'm like, this guy is experimenting quite a bit, and if he keeps doing that, he's gonna come up with the next sound.
Right.
He's gonna stumble on it. MF Doom. You know what can you say? Like
what is it? Every rapper's favorite rapper. MF Doom.
It's your rapper's favorite rapper, man.
Yeah.
Drake loves MF Doom. No surprise, man. MF Doom is a legend. I mean, without MF Doom, there'd be no Freddie Gibbs. You know, with his Madlib and Alchemist albums. I mean, no way. There'd be no. You know, I mean, think about that influence on the underground. I mean, guys like Freddie Gibbs, guys like Danny Brown, guys like Denzel Curry, guys like JPEG Mafia. MF Doom's sons, right there.
He stunned them.
Yeah. Three.
Okay.
Kid Cudi. Oh no, go ahead. What were you gonna ask?
No, I was gonna recap you. I was just gonna say okay, we have Chief Keef and we have Doom and then we have Cudi.
Yep. Yeah. Kid Cudi. Again, not much to say there. And of course, number 4, of course, it's Kanye.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hendrix, of course.
Yeah.
Hendrix, of course.
Little MC ride. Non-hip hop heads have probably already skipped through to the.
Oh yeah, to wherever the next thing is. Yeah, it's
but
40 minutes of hip hop.
Yeah, if you're still with us here, God bless you. Like, please check all of these artists out. I'm sure you've already listened to them. Yeah. I'm sure you're already listening to 3 or 4 of them on repeat.
Yeah.
If you're a hip hop head, but it's Kanye, of course.
Of course.
I mean, fuck, dude. I don't listen to Kanye that much at all.
Yeah.
I listen to Kanye weekly. Yeah. I don't listen to him daily. I listen to him weekly.
Look, man, I don't listen to anybody. I only listen to whatever the letter next is. I listen to the next letter. This year has been out of future, seemingly.
Yeah. You dedicated quite a bit of time. But anyway, speaking of dedicated time, we've dedicated a lot to music and hip hop, specifically. Do you have any like film topics you want to get into?
No, I want to listen to your 5th guy. Oh, there's 4 guys. Oh, I want to give you your 4 guys. I want to give you my 4 guys.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me see. I'm gonna get out of the way the guys that are the same. So, Cudi and Kanye are the same. I put Riot up there because I think to me him and Death Grips is like what has kept like defining alternative and experimental, and I think that
Yeah.
deserves, since 2011, and I think that deserves like a huge mention. I mean, the guys of influence is endless. The influence is endless. I mean, it starts with Kanye, goes on to Tyler, and it just keeps going from
JPEG.
there. JPEG, what's his name? Earl Sweatshirt, like all of these guys, it just keeps going. So the fact that it has had this like magnitude of reverberation, and obviously it's the best. I mean, to me, that's my favorite thing. So obviously, I have to put those guys up there.
Yeah, of course.
And then I'm not gonna give it to Doom, but I am going to give it to Andre 3000. That's a
good. Yeah.
I love Outkast, I love
Andre,
and Andre to me up there with Wayne, greatest feature like rappers of all time.
Yeah, that is true.
And then with like a step, just one step below, just one, Rick Ross.
Rick Ross.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I love Rick Ross.
I mean, I like Rick Ross.
As a features artist.
a features. Okay,
yeah,
that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Like a step down on the Mount Rushmore.
No. I'm saying like if there's like a Mount Rushmore of features, then it's like 3 Stacks and Wayne are up there, and then like one step below them, it's the next head a little bit lower, it's Rick Ross.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, yeah, like Rick Ross is, he's got those. He's got features on a lot of Denzel's projects.
Oh yeah, and he's always
Denzel
incredible.
Seems to like working with him.
He's always incredible. And I mean, Scotty Beam on the Alfredo for for Freddie Gibbs, incredible.
Yep.
The Kanye feature's incredible. The Drake feature's incredible. I mean, like every feature that guy has, he's the best. When he comes in just saying that he's ice skating on Scotty Beam, great. It kills me every time. Every time.
Maybach music.
It kills me every time. Guy's great, man. I mean, you gotta give these guys their flowers because I feel like people I feel like people get and maybe people can confuse you and me as being like snobs with hip hop, and I don't think we're snobs, because it's like everybody deserves.
I listen to everybody.
Exactly,
man.
Yeah, because it's like everybody gets their flowers, man. Like even Rick Ross, that guy gets his flowers, and that guy has pretty good, solid albums too.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm such a hip hop head. Like, I mean, if you're a name in hip hop, I'm gonna listen to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you, whatever other people are saying. I'm gonna give you some of my time. I mean, I'm going to give you my ears.
Listen to all of the Future discography. And you know that I came out of that at least saying that like 2 or 3 of those were actually really good.
Yeah. I listened to Doja Cat's new album, like some of the songs, not the whole thing, but some of the songs.
How was that?
I don't know, man. It was like she's very rappy on this one.
Yeah, it is kind of a rap album.
And it's a lot of like trappy stuff, man. Like it's not. Where with Doja Cat, like I actually like her music. I mean, her stuff was really, a couple years ago when she first came out. I mean, had a lot of cool like disco kind of psychedelic, funky kind of stuff in the production that I really liked. And I mean, her singing is great. But the new album's very like it's got your. Just from listening to it, I haven't looked at the production credits, but just listening to it, it's just kind of like I can tell this is like a who's who of the trap production world, and like 5 different producers worked on all of these songs a piece. But there were some that I just found pretty catchy. But overall, I would say I'm looking for I don't know, poppier stuff from her.
I think she'll probably go back in that way because like. This album that she released, it's like the lowest selling album she's ever released.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
So people did not gravitate towards it. It's held like 50K like units. It's like the lowest, literally the lowest one, like first weeks for her. So I think next one she'll probably, to me, the next album after a commercial failure is always the most interesting one. Because it's like, you have this commercial failure where you were trying to step out of your box. And it's like, but you failed, so now you're probably going to try to combine what you were doing well with what you did well in this one, and that usually makes for like a really cool listen.
Yeah.
Which is what I said, I think, to you when I first listened to Testing by A$AP Rocky. And I think I literally said to you, like, dude, I cannot wait for the next one. And now I've been waiting for like what? I think about in 2016. 2016, 2017.
2018, I think.
Really, 2018? I think it was 2017. Yeah. Well, regardless, I've been waiting like 5-6 years.
Is that really his last project?
That's the last one. He hasn't released anything since then.
Holy shit, man. Yeah, we need some new A$AP Rocky
since then,
for sure.
I guess he became a father.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it came out in
no
May.
Excuses. Get
May
busy, A$AP Rocky.
Step slacking off, man.
Dude, in the film world, I feel like, we'd be crazy not to. I'm outside if anyone can't tell. I don't know what's going to make it into the background noise.
I
Probably
think it's going to be pretty clean
but...
because I haven't heard anything from it.
Oh, yeah. Well, an airplane's going over. But anyway, I'm outside today. But we can't.
Now I can hear it.
Yeah. Oh, my God, dude, it's dipping. Oh, my God, it's coming down toward me. Our listeners are like, thank God it's just going to be Edward now. But no, we can't do a film podcast without mentioning the writer's strike, and that it has ended.
Yeah.
After they've reached, guild leaders have approved a tentative deal.
It's like 3 years, right?
Say what?
It's like a 3-year deal.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've reached a tentative deal with big gains. So this is off Deadline, updated with more details and analysis. After almost 5 months, the Writers Guild strike will be officially over at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time Wednesday. So that's, that was yesterday. Quote, today your negotiating committee, the WGAW board and WGAE council all voted unanimously to recommend the agreement, the guild said, of the tentative agreement worked out with the studios and streamers on Sunday. Quote, it will now go to both guilds membership for a ratification vote. Eligible voters will receive ballot and materials for the vote, which will take place from October 2nd to October 9th. The term of the agreement is September 25th through May 21st, 2026. So you're right. It's about a little shy of 3 years. It asserted the Writers Guild asserted in its note to members Tuesday, according to the guild, writers can return to work while the ratification process plays out. That's good.
I have to read in depth about what specifically is coming from this, because it's 3 years, which is not a very long time. And you can only hope that if there were compromises made, that there were no major compromises made. Because 3 years is not a long time, man.
No.
I don't know. Obviously,
and compromises these days in America need to be made on the side of the employer.
Yeah.
I mean, compromises. Employees have been making compromises in every industry in America for years now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's enough is enough. People can't afford to fucking pay their rent.
Yes.
The employers, the big wigs, it's time for them to compromise. That's my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%. And it's one of those things where, when I saw that it was like a 3-year thing, it kind of put me off, because I was like, oh man, that doesn't sound very good. 3 years is like no time when it comes to filmmaking. And 3 years is one movie. 3 years is one movie.
Right?
Maybe two. So it's like you're saying that everybody's gonna be able to work on one project, and then we're gonna do this again. And it's obviously it's easy for
2 seasons of television.
Right, exactly. 2 seasons of a show, 2 seasons of watching Jimmy Fallon make bad jokes on television. So it's one of those things where it's, I really do want to read in depth about what specifically is being stated here. And obviously it's easy for, me to say as just a filmmaker on the sidelines of this, working outside of film at the moment, to be what's going on, because I know that there's people who are actively unemployed, friends of ours that we know that are actively unemployed. It's affected a lot of people, but you always wish that from so much sacrifice that something good would come. and I can only hope that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means necessarily for the future of film, and I believe that the Screen Actors Guild is still not out of strike. So,
yeah, and actually, video in the world of video games, they are just starting to go on strike, like today, like today, is what I saw.
This is affecting like all these creative like mediums and outlets.
Yeah, well, and it not even outside of creative industries. I mean, I was at a buddy's house a few weeks ago. He's got an uncle in a unionized state. I mean, they're striking, and he just works in manufacturing. I mean, it's but
right.
good on them.
Good on them, exactly. Good on them, because that's the thing, man. You need unions, because that's why this happened with the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild and like the Directors Guild. Like this is why this is happening, because it's like these people, at the very least they have unions and they have a way to unionizing, getting all their ideas together, saying this is what we want. Because the worst thing are places that don't let workers like have unions. Because if you and I've worked in these environments before, that's a very oppressive environment. So at least like if these people have unions and they can unionize and like try to get some change going, that's great for them.
Yeah. To touch on what you were talking about the details, I mean, basically, I'll continue reading a little bit here. Delivering on issues that many scribes saw as core to their profession, scribes meaning writers in this context, the deal contains big leaps in AI guardrails, residuals, and data transparency for writers.
Okay, that's very good.
AI guardrails, that's a big one.
It's a big one because that's messed up, man.
There was an announcement the other day that Brightburn, that I don't know if you heard of that horror movie that came out a year or two ago.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, it's like basically an evil kid Superman. The concept of the movie is, what if Clark Kent came down, crash landed in Kansas or whatever and was evil. Brightburn 2 is set to be written by an AI. Like, what the fuck? The fuck are you doing? Right. I mean, I use ChatGPT. The thing is like smart in a lot of ways and really stupid in a lot more ways. Right. So,
but it's not even that, man. Because you were the one who told me about that, and it's not even that, because it's just the precedent. Because you know that from the beginning, that for whatever studio that's doing this, it's just a marketing scheme.
Right.
It's just a marketing scheme. But at the end of the day, it's like a precedent of what could happen moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is a medium of human expression. And it's like you always want the best out of like humanity, and it feels like so often, especially in mediums like film, we don't get that when this is supposed to come from like quote unquote like conscious people. It just always feels like it's money first, marketing, and I don't know. It's disheartening, but hopefully something positive comes from this, even if it's just for 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know that you and I made a joke about that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know you and I made a joke about that like a handful of podcasts ago, in which I think we said something along the lines of like, oh, we're going to be saying like, oh, my favorite writer is X27249, yeah. And it feels like that's kind of what's going on here.
Well, yeah, because if there's anything, because I feel like anyone who pays a lick of attention to this stuff, it's a continual sort of like getting pissed off at companies and big corporations for their short-sightedness, whether it's wages, global warming, the other not even just global warming, but the environment in general. It's like this short-sighted greed and just hunger for profits, no matter what the cost is, in 5 seconds, forget 5 years. And in this case, it's never been more apparent, because it's like we are in the infancy, not even the infancy, like the sort of, the infancy of the AI era, and you're already taking autonomy and agency away from humans, from the human mind, from the human species. by saying, "Oh, we're going to defer to AI on this one." You know, it's like you're already not to sound alarmist here, but you're already starting the apocalypse now.
No, and it's true. It's true because it's like it just feels like then it just feels like human beings are just this blob, and it's like, oh, we're just gonna feed the human machine with content, and it's like, oh my god, man, content.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. Yeah, so it says here leaps that could these leaps could be translated into the upcoming negotiations between the AMPTP and Screen Actors Guild, which could start in the next week. Quote, the guild negotiated a new residual based on viewership, it's told members.
That's pretty good.
Quote, made for HBS VOD series and films that are viewed by 20% or more of the service's domestic subscribers in the first 90 days of release, or in the first 90 days in any subsequent exhibition year.
That was the biggest thing, man. Like, that's the thing that always like befuddled me, and I can't believe that it went on for this long. And it was that, all of these guilds allowed this to go on for so long. Like, because you have to remember that, through the 1900s, when film, came to be in television, and that's when all these guilds were formed, and that's when all these writers and directors and assistant directors, that's when all these people like said, like, okay, we have to unionize and form guilds and like fight for our rights, because we have this producers and these big studios don't really have our best interests in mind, And through that, then you ended up, with like great things happening for certain folks, residuals, filmmakers getting back-end deals, and writers like Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino or like Charlie Kaufman. And it's like, oh, if I write this movie, you're going to pay me this money, So it's like, that was like a thing. And then somehow, all of these, production studios snuck in streaming services. And suddenly streaming services don't play by those rules. And streaming services is completely just like for hire work. And it's like, oh, we just hire you and then we just pay you and then you don't get paid anything. Because then when it goes to Netflix, we hide the streaming numbers and you don't make any money from that, And it's like, well, how is it? Because it's like, these people fought for these things, these residuals and these royalties and these back-end deals so that they could make a living, because you can only make a movie so often, especially if you're like one person, or especially if you only make like one good movie and then you make nothing else for the rest of your existence, but that movie continues to be profitable to the end of humanity,
Right.
Like something like The Deer Hunter, which is the only movie that Michael Cimino made that was any good in the 70s, 80s. So the fact that for over a decade, like streaming services were able to get away with this is beyond me, that it took this long,
Yeah, because if you make a film or any work of art that continues to be influential to this day, the studio, the recording record label, whoever keeps getting money for it. Why not the creator?
Exactly. They keep profiting.
Why not the person that came forth and originated the idea that without them it would never have come to be?
And that was like the absolute BS about it. That it was like, oh, it was just for hire, or we just buy it off you so you never make anything again, and we just put it on our platform. It's the biggest piece of like BS.
The guy who played Darth Vader never saw a fucking check.
Exactly.
I think, right?
And that was
like, dude, you gave the physical performance of the greatest villain, the most recognizable villain of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time, besides the devil.
Right.
The only villain that's more recognizable than Darth Vader is the devil.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
And you're not going to keep paying, and you're not going to cut that guy any checks?
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break, dude.
No, exactly. And it goes, like we have like so many like points in history where that was the case, because it was the same thing in the comic book industry. Like a bunch of those comic book creators got just shafted, insanely shafted by Marvel Comics, by DC Comics. Like insanely shafted, and that's why a bunch of them just formed Image Comics, because they were like, okay, we're going to make it so that they're owned by the creators,
creator-owned books.
Exactly, because that's the thing, man. It's like the audacity of this business is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, and it is like, there is a trade-off to making things creator-owned, because Todd McFarlane, one of the founders of Image Comics, talked about that, where it was like, they'd cut these guys massive checks, and then they'd be lounging on a beach, and he would be calling them like, hey, please finish the book.
Right, exactly. So you need so obviously you need some sort of like balance, where you keep creators accountable, but at the end of the day, it's like they fucking created the thing,
Yeah. Get another writer. There's plenty of people that are more than I guess you can if it's creator owned, exactly. But it is like and that's the trouble. That's the trouble. Yeah. I can't pretend that I can't sympathize with the employer, because I can. People will take advantage of a system. People will become complacent. I mean, dude, I work in sales. You got to give, you got to have that balance of power. Absolutely.
Right. There has to be a give and take. But obviously that always takes some figuring it out.
Yeah, it takes a little more than just saying, hey, we're going to keep fucking everything.
Right.
It takes a little more than that.
Right.
But anyway. Anyway, dude, we've hit the hour mark here.
Yeah, let's do it.
We can hop into our recaps and then just go into the film.
Yeah, let's do that. I do want to do a quick mention, and it is a second rest in peace for us. For Michael Gambon, the gentleman, the Sir, because he was an English Sir Michael John Gambon, who played Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. He passed away today.
Oh, yeah. Oh shit, I didn't hear about that, man.
Yeah, that was like today. So
wow.
Yeah.
And that's the second Dumbledore to die.
Yeah.
Because the first actor, I never even noticed it as a kid, but there was an actor change.
That's right. There is an actor change. That is right. You are absolutely right.
And which one? The third one, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can barely tell the difference, man. I love it. Like, you can barely tell the difference. Like, they really.
they're like, who's the best looking guy?
Yeah, which is a testament to the second guy's performance, because it was like, oh my god, this guy's so talented. He just came in and crushed it as the the same character, but I mean, as a kid, I didn't even notice there was an actor change, but yeah, well, hey, shit, man, rest in peace.
Yeah, love the character, love the actor. Rest in peace.
Yeah. But he was a great actor. What else can you say? What else can you say? He was, regardless of politics. He was a great man.
I wonder whose impression that is. I wonder who that is.
I'm getting good at that thing.
Yeah. They should hire you as one of those like impersonators that they bring onto like television shows.
Yeah, I was like, the other night, I was actually like really sitting down and like trying to get it right. Like, I was just like, the founder. Hillary Clinton. It's getting better by the day, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, if we keep working on it, for sure.
Rand Paul is ugly.
Who's that?
Now, that's Trump. He's talking about.
Okay. You lost me with it a little bit. You went a little too high up for that one.
Oh, okay. Rand Paul is.
Yeah, ugly. There it is. There you got me. But why don't you kick us off with your recap?
All right. So, this past week, my life in media. This past weekend, I watched a horror film by myself with all the lights off.
So did
I. Oh, did you?
But the one for the podcast.
Oh, yeah. I watched The Dark and the Wicked by Brian Bertino. He is the director who brought us The Strangers, which is, obviously a very famous horror film. And so this one's been on my radar for a little bit. It came out in 2020, so it was under people's radar just during the pandemic. Who knows what caused it to fly so low under the radar? Maybe it was the pandemic, and so it didn't get to really have a wide release. Who knows? But The Dark and the Wicked, it is a very sort of A24 feeling horror film. It feels very much like you could slap the A24 logo on it. It's sort of a blend, but it's sort of like Hereditary with some Insidious elements or some Exorcist elements maybe to it. I didn't really like it. I gave it 2 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. The problem, and I'm not going to lie, there were, the litmus test for a horror film. You can't watch a horror film like in the afternoon or, in the early evening with all the lights on with people talking, and, you know what I mean? And know if it was scary, That's not a good litmus test. The real litmus test for is this film scary is you watch it at night with all the lights off. Even better if it's by yourself, although you could, in my opinion, for me personally, I can't prescribe anyone else's viewing experience, but for me personally, I could be with other people, and if it's at night with all the lights off and we're watching a horror movie, I can still be scared with, around other people. And there's a pleasure for me in both. I love watching horror with people. I love watching horror by myself. With this film, I'm not going to lie, there were some parts of it that were scary. And sort of like the plot, I'll read it real quick. On a secluded farm in a nondescript rural town, a man is slowly dying. His family gathers to mourn, and soon a darkness grows, marked by waking nightmares and a growing sense that something evil is taking over the family. So there were parts, I'm not going to lie, that scared me a little bit in this movie. But this movie, I would say the biggest fault of this film was it jumped the gun. It tried to be scary too early. Like, it delivered certain things that I think were supposed to be scary. It had sort of a scene that I feel like was almost the director being like, I want to do the car accident scene in Hereditary type of scene here that just didn't work because it was just very early, and there was something about it where it was just like, this doesn't feel the same. I can tell what he's going for. He's going for that scene, but it's just not there. And there were lots of moments in this film where it was like, it almost felt like the director was standing next to me going like, "Woo, spooky, scary, it's very scary." Like, you're scared right now. Woo. Where he's like showing things on screen.
This was like a South Park skit.
Yeah, like people levitating and like contorting, and it's just like, I'm not scared right now, It just felt very try hard, and then there's a very little payoff at the end as well. There's certain things that the characters say and do especially in the third act that's like, huh? And then there's like this weird like villain turn in the third act of this nurse who is just some young woman who's not scary at all. Just as a person. She's just like the least scary looking human being ever, who does a villainous turn, and I'm like, this isn't scary right now at all. And overall, just kind of, swing and a miss on that one. Yeah. That's really all I have to say, I guess, there. But some people might feel differently, but that was just my take on it.
Okay.
And then I watched the new Shane Gillis special.
Oh, look at that. How was that?
Yeah, Shane Gillis, the rising star comedian. You may have heard of him. He got hired on SNL and then quickly fired when people found some questionable, problematic content on his podcast that he did. But I saw him live last year as one of the headliners in like a multiple comedian show. It was Bert Kreischer's show, but he was like one of the openers, or one of the people leading up. And he's got probably the best Trump impression out of any comedian out there. And his comedy special, his latest one that came out like a week or two ago, called Beautiful Dogs. Brilliant. 9 out of 10, man. It was hilarious. Wow. I was watching it on my at lunch, a few days ago. Hilarious, man. I was laughing my ass off. So damn funny. He's got some great stuff. And it's funny because when I saw him live, he wasn't on stage for a whole hour, probably a good 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a third of this material.
I see.
But it was like even funnier the second time because it was like I remembered it, but I was like, holy shit, that's so funny.
Nice. I'm gonna be checking it out, dude.
Yeah, but definitely check it out, man. It's hilarious.
I'll check that out.
Yeah. And then let's see here. What else? I have been watching since we're getting into spooky season. Again, like I said on last podcast, spooky season starts for me mid-September, man. So I've been watching Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities show on Netflix. I think I have one episode left. It's it's kind of like any anthology show, especially modern anthology show. Older anthology shows like Twilight Zone, man, it's like every episode is, if it's not a home run, it's a freaking, if it's not a grand slam, it's a home run. Let's put it that way.
This is like a mixed bag.
Exactly. It's like Black Mirror, where it's a mixed bag. It's like that episode was great and that episode sucked. I would say, so for anyone listening who knows, what I'm talking about here, and I'll pull up the episodes to have them in front of me while I'm talking about it. Give me 1 second. I don't know if that came through on the audio.
Well, your voice?
No, the Netflix just blares a trailer in your face. Yeah. So episode 1, Lot 36, which basically has a guy who's trying to pay off debts, and he basically bids on these storage units and then pawns off whatever's inside of it to pay off his gambling debts. Very Stephen King-esque story. I feel that the buildup was great, but the climax and like the ending, it's just kind of like there's a monster. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess, it's like, whatever. It's like a Lovecraft monster. And it's like, okay, I guess that's what you were building up to. No big twist. It's just like, oh, there's a monster. And that's it. And then episode 2, Graveyard Rats. This is probably my favorite episode. This is basically this grave robber who, again, he's trying to pay off his debts. So again, very Stephen King-esque story. Definitely there's actually a Stephen King story called Graveyard Shift, where these guys working in a mill go under the basement of the mill, and they find this whole ecosystem of giant rats that live down there. And it's a very creepy story. And this borrows heavily from that, where this guy is basically, he robs graves, but he keeps having trouble because the rats will actually steal the body and pull it into their burrow. So like there's this one body that has like priceless items that it's buried with. And when the rats steal it, he fucking goes into that burrow after it, and he runs into some scary shit. Pretty good episode. That's probably my favorite, just because of how coherent the story is. Very like coherent theme, very like clear thematic elements, philosophical conflict. And then the episode 3, the autopsy, very Lovecraftian, pretty weird, but again, it's like, what's it trying to say? I'm like, I don't really know. Episode 4, the outside, dog shit. There's literally a lotion monster in this episode. I shit you not. I'm like, what the fuck? Skip. Number 5, Pickman's Model. This is actually directly based off of a Lovecraft story. It has Ben Barnes plays the main character in it. People might know him as Prince Caspian in Narnia, or Jigsaw in the Punisher series. And then episode 7, The Viewing, was actually I could tell immediately, and I was correct. It was directed by our guy who directed Mandy and
because he had one of them in there.
Yeah, I could tell immediately in the first scene. I was like, "Oh, this is that director," and I looked it up, and I was like, "Yep, that's him." Again, it was like well made, but it was also like what each episode, except for like one, when they end, you're just kind of like, huh? In terms of what was that really about? Like, what did we learn here? You know, like what was the? Not every story has to have a moral, but it has to have, you know, a theme, a thesis. You know, it doesn't always have to be a lesson, but it's got to be a thesis, something it's trying to say. And most of these episodes just don't have that. So that, and you know, they're yes, are they well made dark fantasy pieces? Yes, but do they really have much to say and much, you know, like edge of your seat character development and thematic development? No. So yeah, kind of disappointed with Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yeah, I still want to check it out. At least maybe a couple. I mean, at least maybe the episodes you mentioned anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean it's worth checking out. They're you know, they're watchable. They're very watchable. All of them. All of them are, except for that episode 4.
With the lotion man.
Yeah, the outside. I would definitely just skip that one. Okay. But you know, if for no other reason than pure curiosity, then yeah, watch it. But other than that, skip it. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, I've been trying to go through MF Doom's discography, so I listened to his whole Operation Doomsday album the other day, and it's fucking amazing. So I'm just working through his discography because I'm trying to listen to all of my... I'm
going to get there, too.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to get to all my top 5 MCs, all my top 5 hip-hop artists, all of their discographies. And MF Doom, I put him... I just jumped in his discography because I was like, he's the only one of my top 5 rappers who's not in my top 5 most listened to artists of the year, and I need to get him on there. So I was like, fuck, that's a great excuse to just go through his discography.
Yeah.
And then for the first time, I actually listened to the artist Space Ghost Perp.
Look at that.
Listen to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only a couple songs, but I like what I'm hearing so far. I got interested in listening to him because I was reading a little bit about Denzel Curry. And he's a big influence on Denzel. So I was like, I'll check him out. And he's a pretty good artist, man. So I started listening to him a little bit.
Okay.
But that's it for my recap. What about you, man?
For me, obviously, as it goes with me, there was no movie or show.
Big surprise.
But I have listened to a handful of albums. So, because it's been since we had the commentary last week, I haven't really gone over the albums that I've listened to. But since last I spoke about albums, I listened to an album called Orpheus versus the Sirens by Hermit and the Recluse. It's a hip hop rap album. This is the cover.
Okay.
This is kind of like a more I don't want to say old school, but it's kind of like a more 90s feeling, kind of like slow, methodical rapping, very specific, and definitely conceptual album here by Hermit and the Recluse. But it's pretty good. It just has this kind of like mythology thing going on with Orpheus. And it mentions like mythology every now and then, combined with like personal stories or stories of like childhood or stories like of the society that this person was kind of coming up in. I've been wanting to listen to this album for kind of a long time because I knew of it since it came out. But I had a nice time. I recommend it to anybody who kind of likes more conscious rap or a little bit more of like a throwback rap. So yeah, but I thought it was pretty good. I would give it like a 7, 8. Pretty good album. Pretty good rap album. Anybody who was really into me going over those common albums, I would recommend it.
Nice.
So after that, I listened to a band called Scum Without Boundaries. Or rather, oh, no, that's not the name of the band. That's the name of the album. The band is called the I.L.Y, the I.L.Ys. And this is the cover for that album. Now, this is a band. I've listened to this album before. This came out in 2016. This is a band formed by two out of the three Death Grips guys. Those two are the two without MC Rai. So basically,
Zach Hill and the other guy.
So basically, it's just Zach Hill and Flatlander. And it's literally just Death Grips without MC Rai and without some of the hardcore drumming, because even Zach is like more kind of on the producing kind of things here. Not an album that I would recommend to most people. I would not recommend it to most people. I wouldn't even recommend it to Death Grip fans. It's not hip hop. It's like really alternative noise rock. That's the best way that I can put it. It's just noise rock and alternative. But if you're into noise rock, if you're into alternative rock, give it a listen. But again, not for the hip hop heads. Obviously, those two guys split off from Bride for a reason. But if I was going to recommend any songs from this 11-track, 39-minute album, I would recommend song number 2, Peace and Quiet. Song number, let me see, 3, Stop Yelling in the Museum. Song number 4 starts with a C and ends with a U. And song number 7, Doing Things That Artists Do. So I recommend those songs of that album. And I think it's a really good album, but it's not for everybody. After that, I listened to the band Iceage. I listened to Iceage is like an alternative post-punk band.
It's a great name.
Iceage?
Yeah, man, I like that.
It's a great name, but it doesn't make for great movies, sadly. But I listened to an album by them called Plowing into the Field of Love. Like again, 2014 album, 12 songs, 48 minutes. Better band name and better album title than album. Underwhelming album. Largely underwhelming album. Kind of a poor post-punk listen for me. I adore post-punk, one of my favorite subgenres of like rock. But this was not it, you know. I was so underwhelmed because I had been looking forward to listening to this for such a long time. Really underwhelmed. But if you like post-punk, and especially if you like kind of post-punk more in the I would say, rhythmic and kind of more like thrudging songs, I would recommend this for you, I guess. For me, this is kind of like a 6-5 album. But highlights for me for this album were On My Fingers, so song number 1, number 2, The Lord's Favorite, and then number 11, Simony. From here, I listened to an artist named Ichiko Aoba. And Ichiko Aoba is a Japanese singer-songwriter, folk singer. And I listened to her album Zero, or O, from 2013. And I also listened to her 2020 album Windswept, Adan. And I would give both of those albums 8s. The Windswept Adan, I would probably give like a 9, maybe. Yeah, 9, 8. Great. If you're a person that enjoys Japanese music, or if Japanese folk music sounds like something interesting for you, this is, in terms of modern like folk Japanese like singer-songwriter albums, this is as good as it gets. Came out in 2020, 14 songs, 15 minutes, and it's great from the beginning to the end. I would recommend Prologue, the first song. Number 6, Parfum de Oitils or something like that. It's French. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. Or number 9, again, I'm not going to pronounce it. They're Japanese and French titles. I'm not going to do it. From there, I listened to another band that I had been planning on listening to for a long time. I had only listened to their first album. I had introduced you to a few songs of the first album, and this band is called I.L.Y. Their first album came out in 2017, and it's called Breedlove. And it's just this picture of like this lady. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yep. So it's a band called Idols, hardcore, post-punk, and the album Brutalism is incredible. It's such a great album. Brutal. I mean, it's called Brutalism, and it's brutal. It's so good. I know that I've played for you before. I think I've played for you a song called Mother from this album, which is song number 3. Incredible song. Like if anybody wants to listen to this, again, if you're really into post-punk and if you're really into just hardcore rock, and if you're really into listening to just British people curse and swear and be super sarcastic, then this is the album for you. This album is great.
I watched the show The Boys for that.
Yeah, so yeah, no, but if you want to listen to the music version of something like that, this is great. I mean, great. The songs are just like thrudging. The choruses and the hooks. I mean, everything here is just great. Everything here is great. Again, the song number 2, Well Done. Song number 3, Mother. Song number 6, 1049, Gotho. And song number 13, Slow Savage, are all excellent. But this album, front to back, incredible. I would give this album like a 9 out of 10. I think it's just a great album. And it has like everything that I look for, like a great post-punk, like hardcore album. It's in here.
Nice.
And based on all of that enthusiasm, I listened to their second album from 2019 called Joy as an Act of Resistance, which this is the cover for that.
Oh, that's dope.
So this is their 2018 album. It says, Britain's great punk hopes take a giant, furious leap forward. It's like the little like tagline for it here. Now, I have to say, this was a great disappointment. Because again, Brutalism was full of incredible one-liners, incredible hooks, just this like thrudging, just like slow and like pounding like songs, you know. And they traded that in Joy as an Act of Resistance. They traded that for very quick songs. And by quick, I don't mean like the length of the songs, but like the progression, like the instrumental progression is really quick. So from having like really slow drum patterns, it went to just having really fast drum patterns and really quick guitar riffs and lines, and it made for a huge sacrifice in what I think makes the voice of the singer great. And it made for a huge sacrifice in great one-liners because he didn't have that much space in between the instruments, and it made for what I believe to be just weaker like hooks. I know that a lot of people who like this band think this is like their great album, and I don't agree with that. I thought it was so underwhelming. Regardless, Never Fight a Man with a Perm and Samaritans and Cry to Me are great songs. From there, hoping that my theory of bands that sometimes in their third record combine elements from the first and second, I listened to their third record, which is called Ultra Mono from 2020. And they did. In this album, they did. But not succinctly, because in Ultra Mono, they have songs that are like in Acts of Joy, right? And they have songs that are like songs in Brutalism. For instance, the song number 1, War, and the song number 2, Grounds, and the song number 9, Rains, are very like Brutalism like songs. But then you have songs like Mr. Motivator and songs like Model Village that are very much like acts of resistance songs. So they just kind of did both albums in this album. And I think it made for a mixed bag. Whereas like Acts of Resistance, I would give that album like a 5, you know, and Brutalism, again, it's like a 9. That album's fucking great. This album, I would give this album like a 6 or a 7. You know, it has like the worst of both those albums and the best of both those albums. I don't know if I'll listen to their last album from 2021, maybe, because this is where my listening ends for now. But yeah, that's where I'm at with those folks. And I hope somebody gets a good recommendation from those albums.
All right.
But all that being said, I think this is what you were going to say. Let's get into the film of the week.
Yep.
Which for this week,
sir.
For this week is the George Romero 1976 written and directed film Martin. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm a big. I love Romero. I love his original, Dead trilogy. I think he's a great filmmaker. I was watching like clips the other day from his Dawn of the Dead, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm watching this movie again this October." Like I haven't seen it in years, all the way through, and I'm like, "Fuck it, I have to watch this. This is so much better than I even remember." Um, so I think he's a great filmmaker, and I think that shows in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't much care for the movie overall. I mean, right off the bat, dude, I fucking hated Martin. I mean, oh my god, like there's no sympathy for this guy at all, which is fine. That's fine. That's totally fine. I'm perfectly fine to have having a protagonist in a movie who is a vile piece of shit. I mean, look, television, The Sopranos and The Shield, Tony Soprano and Vic Mackey, two of the most repugnant protagonists in the history of film and television that I stuck through with for 6 and 7 seasons respectively in their respective shows. Right? I'm totally fine with having a terrible human being as the protagonist. Again, The House That Jack Built, great film.
Right.
Horrendous protagonist, like horrific person. The problem with Martin is that not only was he horrible, but he was also very uninteresting.
Yes.
I mean, the guy, throughout the movie, the guy is just a mute. I mean, he doesn't even say anything. There's barely any characterization to him other than that he's just some fucking weirdo who thinks, I'm like, does he think he's a vampire or not? Because at one moment he's sucking someone's blood, and then the next moment he's saying magic isn't real, magic doesn't exist. Oh, I'm just wearing fake fangs. I'm like, what the hell? Who's actually delusional here? Him or his cousin who is calling him Nosferatu and saying that he's going to drive a stake through his heart?
Yeah.
I mean, the very first scene was brutal, dude.
Yes.
The very first scene, I was like, I hate this guy so much. I hate this guy's guts. I absolutely cannot stand this guy. Horrific person. I mean, the way he kills people with injecting them with something that they don't know what it is,
and it just
then
paralyzes them. Yeah, puts them to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And then, draining their blood. I mean, it's just fucking horrendous. But then as the movie goes on, I'm like, I hate this guy. Yeah. I hate this guy so much, not only because of what a piece of shit he is, but because I don't love to hate him like The House That Jack Built or The Shield or The Sopranos or name whatever evil protagonist, villainous protagonist you want. I hate to hate him. This Cole Sprouse looking motherfucker. I hate him so much. I don't have anything against Cole Sprouse, but I might after watching this movie. He looks like Cole Sprouse.
It does resemble him.
And I'm watching this thing, and I couldn't help but feel too, like, because my favorite part of the movie were the attack scenes, specifically that sequence in the house.
Right,
in the middle of the movie.
That was fascinating. Yeah, that was interesting.
That was terrific. That scene where he goes to kill that woman and he realizes that there's a man there with her, so now he's got to deal with him as well. And so it becomes this cat and mouse thing. And the whole thing too with them like trying to call the hospital, and then Martin's like holding up the line to keep them, and then he locks the boyfriend out. That just this whole cat and mouse, like fucking literally Tom and Jerry shit that they're doing was fascinating to watch. I mean, that was a fun scene.
Yeah, that was a very good scene.
And I'm like, I think, because my whole thing was like, look, if you're going to have this villainous protagonist and you're not going to make him interesting whatsoever, I mean, whatsoever, that there were zero qualities of this character that I found interesting. Zero. I'm like, you might as well do a complete plot overhaul and make Martin the antagonist and have his protagonist be his niece or whoever that was that he was living with.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a much stronger story, I think. If you're not going to do an interesting character study on this guy, I mean, they were trying to, but they completely failed, in my opinion. Then it should have been Martin's the antagonist, and it's like, hey, we're in his, I don't remember her name, but his niece or his cousin's granddaughter, so whatever that is to him. We're in her shoes, right? Movie begins, we get introduced to her, and then Martin comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, what the fuck's happening? You know, and then you have like this sort of, you know, the Stepfather-esque. That's a great horror movie, by the way. The Stepfather-esque story of this foreign, you know, this you know, out of towner coming in, and it's like, who the fuck is? I don't think I know this person, you know. And I couldn't help but think too, because he had Dexter's MO, and I kept thinking of Dexter during this, because that's Dexter's MO, sneaking up behind someone and tranquilizing them with a needle. What's interesting is in Dexter, they always immediately go out, though. The second he sticks that needle in and presses down on the plunger, they're out.
Yeah, and this one they stick around for a bit.
Yeah, which I think is a little more realistic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Dexter just had some stronger stuff or if that's unrealistic. I don't know, because with tranquilizer, generally with, you know, I think with like warm-blooded creatures, it takes a little while for them to like conk out. You know, like if you hit a bear with a tranquilizer dart, it's still going to be a good like 2 minutes, I think. I'm not an expert, but who knows though? Dexter had some stronger stuff. I don't know. I don't care. Dexter was super fucking interesting. Mm-hmm. We got to know that guy extremely well through the course of that show. Not to mention he killed bad guys. But let's say that Dexter didn't kill bad guys and he was just your run-of-the-mill serial killer. Fine. Still would have been way more interesting because they framed him. They did such a good job in Dexter of framing him like a drug addict where you actually felt like, holy shit. As a viewer, you're like, Dexter's got to get his fix. Like, where do we go, Dexter? You got to get your fucking fix, you know? His fix being killing, of course.
Right.
But there were some other things that I liked about the movie were, I liked the little black and white vignettes just on a stylistic level.
I did like that.
Those
too.
Were cool.
Yeah, I thought the movie had good presentation.
Definitely. It was definitely well made. I loved the, you know, scene where the priest, the priest, I don't think it was this scene, but there's another scene with a priest the priest is actually played by George Romero, which was interesting. But there's another scene, I think, with a different priest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there is, like an older one.
Yeah, and he's walking through the town at night, and there's like the fog, you know, and it's really spooky. And I was like, classic Romero, just capturing that, you know, autumnal sort of horror, classic horror feel. You know, I loved that. Of course, at the tail end of that scene, there's the whole thing of like, no, I'm just kidding. It's just fangs. And you're like, what the fuck are you on, Martin? Do you believe you're a vampire or not? Like, I don't fucking get it. And then some of the music was cool. Romero always has like great musical selection. I love the music in Dawn of the Dead. And that's not even, you know, the Italian cut of Dawn of the Dead had, you know, a whole Italian score. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the American cut that had great music in it. And this movie had some great scores in it. Something that I noticed with George Romero's scores is that he seems to like sort of like carnival sounding music, like music that almost sounds like it comes off of a carousel. You heard that in this movie. You hear it in Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. I don't know what that's about, but I kind of dig it. But yeah, man. And then, of course, you know, Martin sleeps with the older woman. I knew that was going to happen. I was like, what the hell? Why would she sleep with this fucking weirdo? Like, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah. He looks like Cole Sprouse.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess. And then I'm like, okay, they didn't really develop that or go anywhere with that. And then the end when he gets the stake in his heart, I was like, fucking thank God. And that was a cool scene when he got the stake in his heart and he first hammers it in and the blood spurts out. That was like a great effects shot.
That was a great effects shot.
And I think probably done by Tom Savini because he's in this movie.
Yeah, it is by Tom Savini.
Yeah, because he's in the movie, which at first I didn't recognize him without his mustache, but he's in it briefly in like a bar or something. Yeah, what do you have to say about the movie, man?
When I started watching this movie, you know, and I watched it on YouTube, which is funny because there's like you watched it on the link that I sent you?
Yeah, dude, all of Romero's old movies are on YouTube. It's so weird.
That's the best link for it too, which is funny because Sean Baker, like the guy who made the Florida Project, he has like he's active on Letterboxd in a way, and he has a review for this movie. But he didn't review. He just said he watched it, and he said had to watch it on YouTube because there's no other way right now. But it looks pretty good. It must be a DVD rip. Which is what I thought. Like I was watching that on YouTube, like this looks great. Like this looks like really good. But yeah, man, the first 10 minutes of this movie, after that I was just thinking to myself, I should not have made us watch this movie. Because I feel like it feels like this movie needs like all the trigger warnings possible. Like if you're somebody who's listening to us right now, obviously we're in the midst of our horror run this year. If you're listening to us and you weren't tuned in for us saying like movie of the week next week is Spartan, you know, and you haven't watched the movie and you're just trying to see what we say about it in case you want to watch it, don't watch this movie. That's the first and foremost, like, you know, this movie has all kinds of violence from humans to other humans, you know, all kinds. I don't even have to go about it, just all kinds. I mean, geez. And I mean, death, assault, mutilation, you know, and it also has animal violence because it shows you like these guys like killing all these chickens and beheading them and like.
Oh yeah.
So it's you know, if you're somebody who's easily triggered by these things, don't check this thing out. And even if you're not, don't check this thing out. Because again, like that happened.
It's depraved.
It's depraved. Like the very first 10 minutes of this movie are very uncomfortable, very depraved is a perfect word for it. It's just a prolonged, and I have to say gratuitous portrayal of one of the vilest things that you can show people.
Which I'm fine with if there's a great story and great thematic elements and great characterization. I mean, The House That Jack Built is like the good version of the movie.
But that's the thing, because it's like
a great film.
Because again, like, and I have to say this because it's like, you know, it's about when something feels like exploitation. And this movie felt like exploitation, and it felt gratuitous, you know. The way that we would linger on people, the way that we would linger on the characters' bodies, you know, the way that these scenes were portrayed and shown and carried out, like it was just gratuitous, you know. There's nothing to it that just didn't say like gratuity. It was almost like it was asking for the viewer to have some kind of satisfaction from it. And that's just not me, you know, that's not you. Sadly, we may know some folks that may feel a certain way about this in a positive way, but that's not us. But it's one of those things that it's like, you know, it's not very inviting, and it's really uncomfortable, and it doesn't really serve a grand purpose. Like, yeah, like Romero has great direction throughout this film, and he has great scenes, great visual direction, great settings, great music. But the content within this film is really kind of appalling. And specifically, you know, because I think mentioning The House of Jack Bill is a pretty good thing to bring up. Because it's just, you can play with these themes, and you can play with these scenes and these characters and these things without it feeling like exploitation, and without it feeling like you're asking for the audience to get behind what you're portraying, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have a movie like Funny Games and have them, have these two male characters like humiliate and torture Naomi Watts and her family, and you can be a sensible filmmaker and say, hey, in this scene that these guys are like humiliating this woman and asking her to, take her clothes off in front of her husband and her child, like the sensible, actual empathetic artistic thing to do in this film that's already portraying such great violence is to not show that to the audience. Because at that point you're exploiting the actors. You're just asking for the audience to have some kind of gratuitous like satisfaction from this, and that's not the goal that we're going for here. And I feel like this movie missed that mark, and it just becomes gratuitous and exploitation.
Yeah.
And I can't forgive it for that. I really can't. Like, I'm beyond that. Like, I remember that you and I watched a movie. It was like this like French movie about this like home invasion, right? And
they,
yeah, something like that. And I remember
them.
that. You remember how angry I was? Like, I was so angry watching that movie. Because see, that movie reminds me of this. It's just exploitative. It's just like, oh, we're going to show all of these bad things for no reason. They're going to do all of these things to the female characters in the film for no reason whatsoever, just because. And we're going to show it in the most like gratuitous ways, And it's just like, what's the point? It's like, what?
Yeah.
What's the point? Like it's baffling, And again, there are really interesting scenes in this film. That scene that you and I talked about, and that home invasion scene where he comes in there with, he like takes off the light bulb, and there's that guy there, and it just becomes this like problem, complications, and he has to deal with both of them and get creative. That was a great scene, and obviously I'm not gonna fault the film for that scene. That's a great scene. That goes without saying. Ultimately, I feel like the film's issues outweigh the positives. Like I feel like this is a film that needed like it just needed some actual like. It needed what I would just say, like it needed like a human touch. Like it needed to be made by either Romero at a different point in his life or something else. Because this movie just feels like so like inhumane. That's really the best way that I can put it. Because you can have these things. You can make shows like Dexter. You can make movies like the Jack That House Built. Like you can do these things.
The Jack That House Built.
The Jack That House Built. Yeah, the House Jack Built. You can have something like funny games, but it's like it's really just about execution. Because at some point it goes so far to where there's no coming back. And you lose the audience, and it just becomes perverse. And that honestly, that's all I have to say about this movie. I know that I picked it, and I was gonna watch this film at some point or another. I was, because it has been in my watch list forever. I'm just extremely disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, like you. I mean, the first few minutes, I was like, I know what this is already.
Right.
I was just like, this is. It to me, it was like Vampire's Kiss all over again, where it was just like, this is going to be that type of movie. This was better than Vampire's Kiss
absolutely.
for me, but I was like, this is going to be that type of movie where it's just like this fucker who's not interesting and is an asshole, and it's just like fuck. But yeah, you can't. Again, like you said, you can't deny Romero's directing ability and the way he crafted some of these scenes were really good, and the film gains an extra point for me on that. But
absolutely, yeah, that's the thing. I'm trying to give this movie like it's. I'm trying to pay this movie its due.
Yeah. However small that due is, for sure.
But I just do. I do have to say, like when you have a movie like this that has like so many scenes. In this nature, and that literally opens with a 10-minute sequence like this, it's not even worth watching. At that point, you've already lost everybody. You've lost anybody with some kind of sensibility. Like it's funny because you sent me that article with Miyazaki from The Onion, and the reason why I admire Miyazaki as a filmmaker so much, and I love like all of his films, is just because of that idea. Because that's a filmmaker that embodies the idea of just like, having like sensitivity and empathy for humanity and for humans and for just showing things in a way that is just like sensible and respects the audience and respects like their sensitivities and their intellect, you know. So when you just watch something that is just devoid and just feels like so like it feels like such like for me not for them kind of thing, like so selfish, you know, and it feels like this weird personal project where you're just like fucking like doing these things and it's like who is this for, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of where you lose me a lot of the time. It's like, oh, this is not for me, man.
Yeah. Who the hell is this movie for? That's what I want to know. Because it was just like we learned nothing about Martin.
We do not.
I mean, he's such a little prick. I wanted to slap that fucking look off his silent little face the whole movie. I'm just like, I hate this guy with a passion.
Yeah, no, this is silly. And even for movies that try to approach the mythology of a vampire from like a real sociological, like, you know, modern perspective, this is not it either, you know. There's like some flesh and bones of what that could have been for this film, but it's not there. It's just not there.
Yeah, I agree, man. What's your rating?
I was gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm feeling
1.5 stars out of 5, I guess.
Yeah, I'm feeling a 3 or 4 out of 10.
I was thinking about a 4, but I was like, I'm not gonna do it, man. Again, I'm like, it's just such a distasteful thing. Like, I wouldn't show this movie to anybody, you know.
No,
like I wouldn't show like, and just because of that, you know, I'm like, I'm not. You know, I'm like, I'm not, you know.
That's a good litmus test for how much you really enjoy a film. Is like, would you show this to anybody?
I wouldn't show this to anybody, dude.
Yeah, I think I'll go with a 3 too, honestly.
Because
it's just like,
dude, because like most people,
I think that half star,
yeah,
that instead of a 2, it being a 3 is because of that one scene.
That one great scene. Because that was fun. Yeah. That was a great scene. But again, if that, I would just show people that scene. Oh, this is a great scene. What's this scene? Because I feel like if I showed somebody this movie, most people that I know, if I showed them this movie, they would be like, what the fuck? You know? And they probably wouldn't talk to me after that for like a while. Because they probably think I'm some freak. I mean, like, why did this guy show me this? Is he trying to say something to
me? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to the audience. If you disagree with us, comment. Tell us your thesis as to why this is truly the Romero masterpiece that it's hidden gem.
Yeah. And try to. I'd be interested to see what mental gymnastics you come up with as to why Martin sometimes thinks he's a vampire and sometimes doesn't,
right? And
why his cousin also thinks he's a vampire.
Yeah.
I'm like totally confused.
That's BS because it's just like playing with that line, and it doesn't do anything or go anywhere. It's just BS anyway.
Yeah, I think you know what type of movie is blacklisted for me is movies where the character thinks he or she is a vampire but is not.
This is the second one now for us.
Yeah,
the second one like within a month.
Yeah, only real vampires. Only Rosie O'Donnell. Only real vampires from now on. Give me 30 Days a Night, baby. Dracula, Bram Stoker's, or Bela Lugosi. I don't, Francis Ford Coppola or Bela Lugosi. I don't give a shit. Freaking. Give me Underworld over this shit.
Yeah.
Hell, this
is our second venturing in the podcast into that exact like subgenre of vampire film, and it's not being good.
I can't stand that, man. Where they're like, oh, vampires, but there's not actually a vampire. He thinks he's one. It's like, fuck off, man. Just make a vampire movie.
Yeah.
I would like to see a really good, like, actually scary vampire horror movie.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, 30 Days of Night is, like, pretty good. It's okay. Yeah. I'd like to see a really scary vampire movie. The only one I can think of, actually, is Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot's fucking pretty scary. The Tobe Hooper adaptation of the Stephen King book.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's actually a mini series technically. It's like 3-hour-long episodes.
For a second, I thought that movie No One Will Save You was a vampire film, but it's like an alien, like home invasion movie. What is this thing? It's on Hulu. No One Will Save You. Yep, it's on Hulu. For those wondering, Jake, as it goes, as it usually goes with the podcast, Jake's connection.
We made it, dude. We made it to the end.
I was just telling the audience. I was like, Jake's falling through again. But now we're like literally at the end. We're like literally at the end of the podcast. We made it. In any case, dude, Jake, what's your film for next week, if any?
Dude, I'm like between, because I'm taking it very seriously because we have a finite amount of time for spooky season. So, we have 4 episodes for spooky season.
That's right, yeah.
And I know that at least one of those for me is probably going to be a Halloween special, like a horror movie countdown. So I have I have a few that I'm trying to decide. So I'll let you know by tomorrow or the next day.
Hey,
give me so it'll be a surprise for the audience.
Yeah. All right, let's do that. It'll be a surprise for me. As long as you let me know before next Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be good.
No, don't worry. But yeah, that's the show, folks.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, man. If you want more, you're just not going to get it right now. Thanks for tuning in.
Tune in next week. Next time on Film Tangents, we're out.